The warning lights flashed red across the monitoring station. Jake Morrison leaned closer to his screen, watching the strange signal pulse through space. He had been working at the Neptune outpost for 2 years now, and he had never seen anything like this before. The signal was not human. That much was clear. It came from somewhere beyond their solar system, carrying patterns that their computers struggled to understand. Jake adjusted the frequency and called out to his commander. Linda Hayes walked over quickly. She was a careful woman who did not rush into decisions, but something about Jake's voice made her move faster. When she heard the translated message, her face went pale. The message was simple and desperate. A species called the Valerians was under attack. They were losing badly. Their worlds were burning and their people were dying. They had heard stories about Earth, about humans who came from a dangerous world. They were calling for help from a species they had never met. Linda sent the message to Earth Command immediately. The response came back within hours, which almost never happened. Earth was going to answer the call. They would send a ship and a crew to help these aliens. Captain Ben Carter got the news while he was having breakfast. He read the message 3 times before he believed it. Humanity was finally going to meet aliens, and their first meeting would be on a battlefield. Ben was a good choice for the mission. He had fought in the corporate wars when companies tried to take over Mars. He had stopped a rebellion on the mining colonies. He knew how to fight, and more importantly, he knew how to win when things looked impossible. His ship was called the Valkyrie. It was new, fast, and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. The ship used a special engine that humans had invented, one that could travel faster than light by bending space itself. Other species would find this technology amazing, but humans just called it practical. Ben chose his crew carefully. He picked Amy Rogers for weapons. She could hit a target from 1,000 miles away without breaking a sweat. Danny Price would handle engineering. That man could fix anything with whatever tools he had nearby. Susan Blake was the doctor, trained to handle injuries that would kill most people. Peter Kane was the navigator, a genius who understood space better than anyone Ben had ever met. The crew gathered on the Valkyrie 3 days later. Ben stood before them in the briefing room. They looked tired but ready. Some of them had families they were leaving behind. All of them knew this mission might be their last. "We are going into unknown space," Ben told them. "We are going to fight an enemy we have never seen. We are doing this for people we have never met. Some of you might think this is crazy. You might be right. But this is what humans do. When someone calls for help, we answer." Amy spoke up from the back. "Do we know anything about this enemy?" "Not much," Ben admitted. "They are called the Kreth. They have been conquering other species for decades. They are strong, organized, and ruthless. They do not negotiate. They do not show mercy." "Sounds like they have never met humans before," Danny said with a grin. The crew laughed. It was nervous laughter, but it helped. They were scared, which meant they were smart. But they were also ready to fight, which meant they were human. The Valkyrie launched from Earth orbit on a Tuesday morning. The ship's engines hummed with power as they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed. Peter checked his calculations one more time. The journey would take 3 weeks. For people who were dying, 3 weeks was an eternity. But by galactic standards, it was incredibly fast. Ben watched Earth shrink behind them through the window. He wondered if they would ever see it again. Then he pushed the thought away. Doubt was a luxury they could not afford. The ship jumped. Space bent around them in ways that hurt to look at. Then they were moving faster than light, crossing distances that should have taken decades. Inside the ship, everything felt normal. The crew went about their duties, preparing for what was coming. Amy spent hours checking her weapon systems. The Valkyrie carried railguns that could fire metal slugs at incredible speeds. It had missiles that could think for themselves. It had lasers, plasma cannons, and a few experimental weapons that even Amy was not sure would work. She made sure everything was perfect. Danny worked in the engine room, making small improvements wherever he could. He knew the ship would take damage in battle. He prepared backup systems and emergency repairs. He made sure the Valkyrie would keep fighting even when half of its systems were destroyed. Susan prepared the medical bay. She read everything available about alien biology, which was not much. She did not know if human medicine would work on aliens. She did not know if alien weapons would kill humans differently. She prepared for everything she could imagine and knew it would not be enough. Peter plotted their course and studied what little they knew about Valerian space. The Kreth had taken over several systems already. They were moving in a pattern. conquering one world before moving to the next. Peter tried to predict where they would strike next. Ben spent most of his time thinking. He thought about tactics and strategy. He thought about what they would find when they arrived. He thought about the fact that humanity was announcing itself to the galaxy as warriors. That would shape how other species saw them forever. On the 10th day of the journey, they received another message from the Valerians. It was shorter this time, more desperate. The Kreth were attacking their homeworld. The orbital defenses were failing. They did not know if they would survive long enough for help to arrive. Ben called the crew together. "We are going to arrive in the middle of a battle," he told them. "The Valerians are losing. We need to hit the Kreth hard and fast. We need to show them that humans are not like other species. We need to make them afraid." "How do we do that?" someone asked. "We do what humans have always done," Ben answered. "We fight like our world taught us to fight. We fight like everything is trying to kill us because for most of human history, everything was trying to kill us. We adapt, we improvise, we survive." The crew nodded. They understood. Earth was a dangerous world. Humans were the species that survived it. That made them dangerous too. 3 weeks after leaving Earth, the Valkyrie dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Valerian space. Their sensors immediately lit up with warnings. Ships were fighting in orbit around a beautiful blue and green planet. The Valerians were losing badly. Ben looked at the battle display and smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator seeing prey. "Battle stations," he ordered. "Let us show these Kreth what happens when they pick a fight with Deathworlders." The battle around Valara Prime was brutal. 3 massive Kreth warships were attacking an orbital station. The station's shields flickered and sparked, barely holding together. The Valerians were firing back, but their weapons seemed to do almost nothing against the Kreth armor. Ben studied the enemy ships carefully. They were huge, at least 3 times bigger than the Valkyrie. Their hulls were dark metal covered in sharp edges and weapon ports. They moved slowly like they had all the time in the world. They probably thought they did. "Amy, can you punch through those shields?" Ben asked. Amy studied her targeting computer. "Their shields are designed for energy weapons. Our railguns should go right through them." "Good. Target the closest ship. Danny, give me everything you have got for speed and weapons. Peter, get us in close and keep us moving." The Valkyrie shot forward. The acceleration would have crushed most alien species flat. The G-forces were intense even with the dampeners. But humans were built for Earth gravity, which was stronger than most planets. The crew barely noticed the pressure. The Kreth ships noticed them now. They started to turn, their weapons powering up. But they were too slow. The Valkyrie was already on top of them. Amy fired. The railgun roared, though there was no sound in space. Tungsten slugs shot out at a fraction of light speed. They hit the Kreth shields and punched straight through like the shields were not even there. The slugs slammed into the ship's armor, tearing massive holes in the hull. Atmosphere vented into space. The Kreth ship shuddered and started to list to one side. Alarms were probably screaming inside that ship. They had never been hurt like this before. "Second target," Ben ordered calmly. The Valkyrie was already moving, dodging the return fire from the other 2 ships. The Kreth weapons were powerful energy beams that could have destroyed the Valkyrie in seconds. But they had to hit first. The human ship moved in patterns that seemed random but were carefully calculated. Every dodge, every turn was planned. Amy launched missiles. The Valkyrie carried smart missiles that could think for themselves. They scattered as they flew, making it impossible for the Kreth defenses to track them all. The Kreth tried to shoot them down, but too many got through. Explosions blossomed across the second Kreth ship. Their weapon systems went dark. Critical systems failed. The ship was still alive but could no longer fight. The third Kreth ship decided to run. Its engines flared as it tried to escape. But Peter had predicted this. He had positioned the Valkyrie perfectly. The human ship cut off the escape route. "They are not getting away," Peter said, bringing us around for a firing solution. Amy did not waste the opportunity. More railgun rounds hammered into the fleeing ship. The Kreth vessel's engines exploded. It went dead in space, floating helplessly. The entire battle had lasted less than 10 minutes. 3 Kreth warships, ships that had terrorized this sector for years, had been destroyed or disabled by a single human vessel. On the orbital station, the Valerians stood in shocked silence. Their instruments had barely been able to track the human ship. It had moved so fast, fought so aggressively, been so violent in its attacks. They had never seen anything like it. A communication came through to the Valkyrie. The voice was soft and musical, completely different from human voices. "Human vessel, this is Commander Thelen of the Valerian Coalition. We cannot find words for our gratitude. You saved thousands of lives today. Please dock with our station. We must meet you." Ben allowed himself a small smile. "Tell them we are honored to help. And tell them this is just the beginning." The Valkyrie docked carefully with the station. The airlock connected and Ben led a team onto the alien structure. The gravity was lighter here, making them feel like they could jump over buildings. The air smelled different, sweeter somehow. The Valerians were waiting for them. They were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shimmer and change colors. Their eyes were large and kind. They looked fragile, like a strong wind might break them. Commander Thelen stepped forward. The Valerian skin was showing swirls of blue and green. The translation device they wore said, "Thank you. Thank you. We thought we would die today." "You are welcome," Ben said. "But we need to talk about the Kreth. This battle is not over." They moved to a meeting room. The Valerians had designed it to be comfortable, with soft lighting and the sound of running water. Susan found it relaxing. Amy thought it would be a terrible place to defend. Different perspectives. Thelen began to explain the situation. "The Kreth have been conquering our sector for 30 years. They are efficient and ruthless. They take what they want and destroy anyone who resists. Our weapons barely scratch their ships. Our tactics fail against their discipline." "How many worlds have they taken?" Ben asked. 17 species have fallen to them. We thought we would be next." Ben looked at his officers. They all understood what this meant. The Kreth were not just raiders. They were an empire built on conquest. "Tell us about their ground forces," Amy said. Thelen's skin turned purple, which the humans were starting to understand meant fear. "They are terrifying. Each Kreth warrior stands 2 meters tall. They wear armored suits that can withstand most weapons. They carry guns that can destroy buildings. When they invade a planet, resistance is almost impossible." "But they can be killed?" Danny asked. "Yes, but it takes concentrated fire from many weapons. By the time our soldiers kill one Kreth warrior, dozens of our people are dead." The humans looked at each other. Susan spoke gently. "Commander Thelen, what is the gravity on your home world?" "It is 0.7 of standard." "Why does this matter?" "And the Kreth home world?" 0.85 standard." "I still do not understand." Ben leaned forward. "Earth's gravity is 1.0 standard. We are literally built heavier and stronger than most species. What seems impossible to you might be manageable to us," Susan continued. "I have been looking at the medical data you provided. Your species has a simple circulatory system. So do the Kreth. Humans have backup systems. We can survive injuries that would kill you. Our world tried to kill us for millions of years. We had to become tough to survive." Thelen's skin flickered yellow, showing confusion. "You speak of your world as if it was hostile to you." "It was," Peter said. "Predators everywhere. Diseases that could wipe out entire populations. Natural disasters. Extreme temperatures. Poisonous plants. Venomous animals. Earth is classified as a death world. Everything there tried to kill us. How did you survive?" "We became better at killing," Amy said simply. "We learned to hunt in groups. We learned to use tools. We learned to adapt faster than anything else on our planet. We became the apex predators." Thelen was quiet for a moment. The alien skin showed colors that the humans could not interpret. Finally, Thelen said, "The Kreth have 3 colony worlds in our sector. They are gathering their forces there for a final attack on Valara Prime. We estimate 2 months before they have enough ships to overwhelm us completely." Ben stood and walked to the holographic display. It showed the local star systems. "Then we have 2 months to change everything. We are not just going to defend you. We are going to push them back." "But you have only 1 ship," Thelen protested. "For now," Ben agreed, "but more are coming. Earth is mobilized, and more importantly, we are going to teach you how humans fight." "Teach us? You have been fighting the Kreth way, matching force with force. That does not work. We are going to teach you to fight the human way, the Deathworld way." Over the next few days, the Valkyrie helped the Valerians secure their system. They destroyed Kreth surveillance satellites. They hunted down Kreth scout ships. They made sure no information about human capabilities reached the enemy. Meanwhile, Ben sent detailed reports back to Earth. He requested reinforcements, supplies, and most importantly, military trainers. If they were going to win this war, they needed to transform the Valerian military. Susan spent her time studying Valerian biology. She learned that they healed slowly and could not handle much pain. They had evolved on a peaceful world with few predators. They were gentle by nature. The Kreth were different. They came from a harsher world, though still nothing like Earth. They were aggressive and territorial. They had become the dominant species on their planet through strength and organization, but neither species was ready for humans. Neither had evolved on a world where survival meant constant adaptation. Neither had spent millions of years learning to kill or be killed. Ben looked out at the stars from the Valkyrie's bridge. Somewhere out there, the Kreth were planning their next attack. They thought they were the strongest species in the galaxy. They were about to learn they were wrong. 3 weeks after the battle, 5 more human ships arrived. They came out of faster-than-light travel together, a coordinated jump that impressed the Valerians. The ships were all different classes. 2 were destroyers like the Valkyrie. 2 were carriers full of marines and equipment. 1 was a heavy cruiser that carried enough firepower to crack a planet. But more important than the ships were the 3,000 humans they brought with them. These were soldiers, engineers, trainers, and advisors. They had come to transform the Valerian military into something that could fight back. Colonel Helen Martinez took command of the training program. She was a short woman with iron gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had trained soldiers on Mars, Earth, and the Moon colonies. She had fought in more battles than most people had lived years. On the first day, Helen gathered a group of Valerian soldiers and human marines together in a training facility. The Valerians looked nervous. They had seen what humans could do in battle. They were not sure they could learn to fight like that. "I know what you are thinking," Helen told the Valerians. "You have seen us fight. You think we are naturally better warriors. That is not true. We are not stronger just because of our genes. We are stronger because Earth taught us how to survive." She gestured to Sergeant Kyle Hunter, who stepped forward. Kyle was a big man with scars on his arms. He looked like he had been in 100 fights, which was not far from the truth. "Every human child learns to fall," Kyle said. "It sounds simple, but when you grow up in strong gravity, you fall hard. We learn to protect our heads. We learn to roll with the impact. We learn to get back up quickly. It becomes automatic," Helen continued. "The Kreth fight in formations with discipline. That works when everyone follows the same rules. Humans learn to break rules. We learned to fight dirty when we had to. We used the terrain. We used deception. We used fear as a weapon." The training began that day and continued for weeks. The Valerians learned combat techniques that used leverage instead of strength. A smaller fighter could throw a larger one if they knew how. They learned about pressure points and weak spots in armor. They practiced ambush tactics. Helen taught them that the best fight was the one your enemy did not know they were in until it was over. She taught them about guerrilla warfare, about hitting fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Most importantly, she taught them that losing a battle did not mean losing the war. "The Kreth expect you to stand and fight," she explained. "Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is retreat, regroup, and attack from a different direction. Survival is more important than pride." The Valerians were good students. Their culture valued learning and cooperation. They had been losing because they did not know how to fight, not because they were incapable of learning. Kyle worked with them on hand-to-hand combat. He showed them how to move, how to balance, how to use an opponent's strength against them. "Size does not matter if you know what you are doing," he told them. "I have been beaten by people half my size because they were better trained." Meanwhile, Amy Rogers worked with Valerian engineers to redesign their weapons. She looked at their energy rifles and shook her head. "These are beautiful," she said. "Elegant, efficient, clean. But you are fighting an enemy with energy shields. These weapons are almost useless. What do you suggest?" the chief engineer asked. His name was Keln, and his skin showed colors of curiosity. Amy pulled up designs for human weapons. "We use chemical propellants, gunpowder. It is ancient technology by your standards, but it works. A bullet does not care about energy shields. Kinetic energy is kinetic energy." She showed them rail guns, projectile weapons, explosive missiles. "These are crude compared to your technology. But crude works. A rock thrown hard enough will break any shield." Keln and his team were fascinated. They had never thought to go backward in technology. But they could see the logic. The Kreth shields were designed to stop energy weapons. Solid projectiles would punch right through. Within 2 weeks, they had prototypes. Valerian rifles that fired metal slugs using magnetic acceleration. They were heavy, loud, and kicked like angry mules. But they worked. The Valerians practiced with them, learning to handle the recoil, getting used to weapons that felt so different from what they knew. Danny Price revolutionized their ship design. He walked through a Valerian cruiser with their chief shipbuilder. "This is a beautiful ship," Danny said. "Comfortable, efficient, great for exploration." "But," the shipbuilder asked, hearing the unspoken criticism, "but it is terrible for war." "Look at this." Danny pointed to critical systems. "One hit here and the whole ship loses power. You have no redundancy, no backup systems, no compartmentalization." He pulled up human ship designs. "This is a human destroyer. See how the systems are spread out? If you destroy the main power, backups kick in. If you breach the hull, bulkheads seal automatically. This ship can lose half its systems and still fight." "But that is so inefficient," the shipbuilder protested. "Efficiency does not matter if you are dead," Danny said bluntly. "War is about surviving. Everything else is secondary." The Valerians started redesigning their fleet. They added armor plating, backup systems, emergency bulkheads. Their ships became less elegant but much tougher. Danny smiled when he saw the new designs. They were learning. Susan Blake worked with Valerian doctors. The medical exchange was fascinating. Valerian medicine was incredibly advanced in some ways. They could cure diseases that humans still struggled with, but they had no experience with combat trauma. "You need to think differently," Susan explained to a group of Valerian medics. "In battle, you will not have time for careful treatment. You need to stabilize patients quickly and move on. Stop the bleeding, keep them breathing, deal with everything else later." She taught them about triage, about making hard choices on who to treat first. She taught them about field medicine, about treating injuries with limited supplies. The Valerians found some of it disturbing. Their culture valued every life equally. The idea of choosing who lived and who died was painful. "I know it is hard," Susan said gently, "but if you try to save everyone, you will save no one. You have to be practical. Save those you can save quickly so you can move on to the next patient." Back on the Valkyrie, Ben and his officers planned the counteroffensive. They studied maps of Kreth territory looking for weaknesses. The Kreth had 3 colony worlds in this sector, staging grounds for their invasion fleet. "We cannot defend forever," Ben told his team. "The Kreth have more ships than we do. If we wait for them to attack, we will lose." "So we attack first," Amy said. "Exactly. We hit all 3 colony worlds at the same time. We destroy their supplies, their command centers, their shipyards. We make them afraid to leave their bases." Peter studied the plan. "It is risky. We will be spread thin." "War is risk," Ben said. "But the Kreth do not expect this. They expect us to defend. They think we will wait for them to come to us. We need to change the equation." They presented the plan to the Valerian Council. Theln and the other leaders listened carefully. Their skin showed swirls of color that meant worry and hope mixed together. "This is very aggressive," Theln said. "We have always fought defensively." "And you have always lost," Helen pointed out. "Defense might slow the enemy down, but it does not stop them. If you want to win, you have to take the fight to them." The council debated for hours. Finally, they agreed. It went against everything in their nature. But they could see the logic. The Kreth would not stop unless they were stopped. The fleet began to assemble. 8 human warships, 20 refitted Valerian cruisers, and 5,000 Marines ready for ground combat. It was not a large force by galactic standards, but it was led by humans who knew how to fight, and that made all the difference. Ben stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie and looked at the fleet. They were as ready as they would ever be. In 2 days, they would strike. In 2 days, the Kreth would learn that they had made a terrible mistake. They had called for help from Deathworlders. Now the Deathworlders were coming, and they were bringing war with them. The attack began at dawn on all 3 Kreth colony worlds. The timing was perfect, calculated down to the second. The human and Valerian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in 3 different systems at exactly the same moment. The Kreth had no warning. Their sensors barely had time to register the incoming ships before the first shots were fired. The humans had taught the Valerians an important lesson. Surprise was a weapon all by itself. On Colony World Kreth 7, Lieutenant Lisa Coleman led her Marine platoon down in drop pods. The pods were simple metal containers that fell from orbit at incredible speeds. They hit the ground hard enough to crack concrete. Inside, the Marines barely felt the impact thanks to their crash webbing and training. Lisa's pod door blew open, and she was moving before the smoke cleared. Her rifle was up, her eyes scanning for targets. The rest of her platoon emerged from their pods around her, forming a defensive perimeter in seconds. They had landed right in the middle of a Kreth garrison. Alarms were screaming. Kreth warriors were rushing out of their barracks, grabbing weapons, trying to organize a defense. The Kreth warriors were impressive. Each one stood over 2 meters tall, covered in armored exoskeletons that made them look like walking tanks. Their weapons could punch holes through walls. They moved with mechanical precision, falling into defensive formations. But they were also slow to adapt. They fought the way they always fought, the way they had fought for decades. They expected enemies to engage them directly, to trade shots, to fight like civilized species. Lisa and her Marines did not fight like civilized species. They fought like humans. Split up, Lisa ordered. 3-person teams. Use the buildings for cover. Stay mobile. Do not give them a target. The Marines scattered. The Kreth tried to track them but could not keep up. The humans moved fast using cover, appearing from unexpected angles. When a Kreth warrior raised its weapon, a Marine was already behind it, shooting at the weak points in its armor. The Kreth armor was strong, but not perfect. The joints were vulnerable. The neck seals could be breached. The Marines had studied the armor during their training. They knew exactly where to aim. A Kreth warrior fired at where a Marine had been a second before. The Marine was already gone, rolling behind cover. 2 other Marines fired from different angles. The Kreth shield sparked and failed. Rounds punched through the armor. The warrior fell. The battle was chaos. The Kreth tried to form defensive lines, but the humans refused to fight that way. They hit and ran, fired and moved, worked together like a pack of wolves hunting prey. Kyle Hunter led his squad through the garrison's main building. They moved room by room, clearing each one with practiced efficiency. When they encountered Kreth warriors, they used flashbang grenades to disorient them, then attacked while the enemy was blind and confused. They are not adapting, Kyle said into his radio. They keep trying the same tactics. It is like fighting robots. Keep the pressure on, Lisa responded. Do not give them time to think. That was another human lesson. Humans had learned that confusion was a weapon. If you kept hitting the enemy from different directions, never let them settle, never gave them time to plan, they would make mistakes. The Kreth were making mistakes. They were powerful warriors, but they had never faced an enemy like this. They had always fought species that engaged them directly, that followed predictable patterns. The humans were unpredictable, aggressive, seemed to be everywhere at once. Fear was setting in. The Kreth had rarely felt fear before. They were the conquerors, the dominant species, but now they were dying, and they did not know how to stop it. In orbit above Kreth 7, the Valkyrie led the space battle. Amy had grown more confident with her weapon systems. She knew exactly how much power each shot needed, exactly where to aim for maximum damage. The Kreth ships were powerful but predictable. They formed defensive formations and tried to use their superior numbers. But the human ships did not follow normal battle patterns. They scattered, regrouped, attacked from unexpected angles. Target their command ship, Ben ordered. If we take out their leader, the rest will lose coordination. The Valkyrie dove through the enemy formation. Kreth ships fired at them, but Peter was already moving, keeping them just ahead of the enemy weapons. Amy fired a spread of missiles. Half were real, half were decoys. The Kreth point defense could not tell the difference. Explosions tore through the Kreth command ship. Its communications array shattered. The ship started to drift, powerless. Without central command, the other Kreth ships lost coordination. They started making individual decisions instead of working together. The human and Valerian fleet picked them off one by one. On Colony World Kreth 9, the battle was harder. The Kreth had more forces there, and they had learned from the initial assault. They were starting to adapt. Sergeant Kyle Hunter's unit encountered heavy resistance in the industrial sector. The Kreth had set up defensive positions and were using heavy weapons. Chemical alarms started screaming on the Marines' suits. Gas attack, someone shouted. Kyle looked at his suit's readout. The Kreth had deployed chemical weapons, probably in desperation. The agent was nasty, something that would kill a Valerian instantly. Masks on, Kyle ordered. Stay in your suits. We can handle this. Human technology was more primitive than Valerian or Kreth technology in many ways. But humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had faced chemical weapons before. Their suits were designed to protect against them. The gas rolled over the Marine positions. Inside their sealed suits, the Marines barely noticed. They kept advancing. The Kreth, who had expected the humans to retreat or die, were shocked. Kyle led the charge through the gas cloud. The Kreth were not wearing full environmental suits. They had gas masks, but those did not protect against the concentrations they had deployed. They had poisoned themselves trying to stop the humans. "Medic!" someone called. Kyle had been hit by Kreth weapons fire while pushing through the gas. The shots had penetrated his suit. He could feel the chemical agent burning his skin. It hurt more than anything he had ever felt, but Kyle kept moving. He kept fighting. The agent that would have killed a Valerian in seconds was affecting him, but not fast enough. Human biology was tougher than that. His body was fighting the poison even as he fought the Kreth. He took down 2 more Kreth warriors before his squad pulled him back. A medic rushed over with emergency antitoxin and began treatment. Kyle would survive, but barely. Back on the Valkyrie, Susan Blake was coordinating medical efforts across all 3 battlefields. Her medical bay was full of wounded from both sides. She treated everyone, human, Valerian, even Kreth prisoners. A wounded Kreth warrior was brought in, badly injured. Its armor was shattered and it was bleeding from multiple wounds. Susan immediately started treating it, stopping the bleeding, stabilizing its condition. The Kreth warrior looked at her with what might have been confusion. "Why?" it asked through its translator. "Why help me?" "Because I am a doctor," Susan said simply. "That is what we do." It was a small moment of humanity in the middle of terrible violence. The Kreth warrior would remember it. After 3 weeks of fighting, the Kreth requested a ceasefire. The message came through official diplomatic channels, something that had never happened before. The Kreth had never retreated. They had never asked for peace. But they were asking now. Ben received the message on the bridge of the Valkyrie. He read it carefully, then looked at his officers. "They want to talk," he said. "Is it a trick?" Amy asked. "Maybe," Ben admitted. "But we will take the meeting. We did not come here to wipe them out. We came here to stop them from attacking our allies." The peace talks were set for a neutral station. Ben prepared to meet the enemy face to face. He knew this meeting would shape the future of this entire sector of space. The war was not over yet, but for the first time, there was hope that it could end without everyone dying. The neutral diplomatic station was called Haven. It orbited an uninhabited world halfway between Valerian and Kreth territory. The station had been built by a third species, the Taurum, who made their living as mediators and peacekeepers. Ben arrived on a shuttle with Amy and Peter. They wore their dress uniforms but carried sidearms. Trust only went so far. The Taurum welcomed them with elaborate courtesy and showed them to a meeting room. The room was designed to be neutral. The gravity was set to standard. The temperature was comfortable. The lighting was soft. There were no weapons, no guards, just a table and chairs. The Kreth delegation arrived 10 minutes later. There were 3 of them, led by Ambassador Vok. Vok was massive even by Kreth standards, standing nearly 2.5 meters tall. His armor was ceremonial, covered in markings that probably indicated rank and achievements. Vok looked at the humans for a long moment. "You are smaller than I expected," he said. The translator made his voice sound harsh and grinding. "We get that a lot," Ben said calmly. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." The Kreth sat carefully. The chairs had been reinforced for their weight, but they still looked uncomfortable. Vok leaned forward, his armored hands clasped on the table. "You are the Deathworlders," Vok said. It was not a question. The rumors were true. Your species is dangerous beyond measure. "We can be," Ben agreed. "But we can also be reasonable. We did not come here to conquer you. We came to protect our friends, the Valerians, and anyone else who asked for help against aggression. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, Ambassador. There is no reason for species to destroy each other." Vok made a sound that might have been laughter. "You speak of peace after destroying 3 of our colonies." "You were using those colonies to stage an invasion," Amy pointed out. "We stopped the invasion. We could have done much worse, that was true, and everyone in the room knew it. The human and Valerian fleet had shown restraint. They had targeted military installations, not civilian populations. They could have bombarded the colonies from orbit, killing millions. They had not. Why did you help the Valerians? Vok asked. They are weak. They offer you nothing of value. They asked for help, Ben said simply. That is enough. Vok's translator made a confused sound as if it was struggling with the concept. You fight for species you do not know? For no gain? We fight for what is right, Peter said. The Valerians were not threatening you. You attacked them because you could. That is not acceptable to us. There was a long silence. Vok seemed to be processing this. Finally, he spoke again. We have conquered 17 species. None of them stopped us. Most surrendered without fighting. The few that fought lost quickly. We believed we were unstoppable. You were wrong, Amy said. Yes. Vok's tone was difficult to read through the translator. We studied what data we recovered from the battles. Your tactics make no sense. You do not follow proper military doctrine. You attack from illogical angles. You take risks that should result in defeat. That is because proper military doctrine was written by species that did not evolve on Deathworlds, Ben explained. Humans learned to fight on a planet where everything was trying to kill us. We learned to take risks because playing it safe meant dying. We learned to adapt because the enemy was always changing. Your warriors do not fear death, Vok said. We saw humans continue fighting with injuries that should have been fatal. We saw them charge into situations where survival was impossible. We fear death, Ben corrected, but we do not let that fear stop us. We have a saying on Earth, courage is not the absence of fear but acting despite it. Vok was silent again. Then he said something that surprised the humans. We respect strength. You have proven your strength. You have defeated us in fair combat. We will accept your terms. Our terms are simple, Ben said. Withdraw from Valerian space. Pay reparations for the damage you have caused. Sign non-aggression pacts with the Valerians and the other species in this sector. Stop conquering. You do not demand our surrender? Our subjugation? No, we do not want to rule you. We just want you to stop hurting others. Vok stood and began pacing. The humans watched carefully, hands near their weapons. But the Kreeth ambassador was not preparing to attack. He was thinking. Our empire is built on conquest, Vok said. For generations we have expanded by taking what we wanted. It is our way. Then your way needs to change, Amy said bluntly. Because if you continue, you will face us again. And next time we might not be so restrained. You threaten us? We promise you, Ben said. Humanity has joined the galactic community. We will protect species that cannot protect themselves. We will stand against aggressors. That is not a threat, Ambassador. That is a fact. Vok turned to face them. Your species is young. You have been in space for less than a century, yet you speak as if you own the galaxy. We do not want to own anything, Peter said. We just want everyone to have the chance to exist in peace. Is that so hard to understand? For us, yes, Vok admitted. But we are not fools. We see what you are capable of. We have lost thousands of warriors to your tactics. Our colonies are in ruins. Our fleet is crippled. If we continue to fight, we will lose everything. He sat down again, the chair creaking under his weight. We will accept your terms. We will withdraw from Valerian space. We will pay reparations. We will sign your non-aggression pact. Thank you, Ben said. This is the right choice. Do not thank me, Vok said. We do this because we have no choice. But understand this, human. We will remember. We will study you. We will learn your tactics. Perhaps someday we will meet again as equals rather than as defeated enemies. I hope so, Ben said honestly. The galaxy needs strong species. We just need those species to use their strength wisely. The treaty was signed that day. The Kreeth agreed to withdraw from all Valerian territory within 30 days. They would pay reparations over the next 10 years. They would open diplomatic relations with the Valerians and other species they had threatened. More importantly, word of the treaty spread through the galaxy. Other aggressive species heard about it. They heard that a new species had appeared, a species from a death world that fought with terrifying effectiveness but also showed mercy, a species that would help the weak but could destroy the strong. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. Back on Valara Prime, Commander Thelen organized a ceremony to honor the humans. The entire Valerian Council attended. Thousands of civilians filled the plaza outside the government building. They wanted to see the warriors who had saved them. Ben and his crew stood on a platform, uncomfortable with the attention. They were soldiers, not politicians. They had done what needed to be done. Thelen spoke to the crowd. Today we honor our friends from Earth. They came when we called. They fought when we needed them. They showed us how to defend ourselves. But more than that, they showed us what true strength means. The Valerian skin showed brilliant gold, the color of deep gratitude and joy. We called for help from the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We called for Deathworlders. What we received was so much more. We received friends, teachers, and allies who value life even as they excel at war. The crowd erupted in cheers. The Valerians had their own way of cheering, a harmonious sound that was beautiful to hear. Ben felt something in his chest tighten. They had made a difference. They had saved lives. Thelen approached and carefully took Ben's hand. "You saved my people," the Valerian said. "How can we ever repay this debt?" "You already have," Ben said. "You showed us that the galaxy has good people worth protecting. You showed us that humanity can be more than just warriors. We can be builders, teachers, friends. What happens now?" Thelen asked. Ben looked out at the crowd, at the celebrating Valerians, at his crew standing beside him. "Now we go home. We tell Earth about you. We establish formal relations. We become part of the larger galactic community. And if someone else needs help," Ben smiled, "then we will answer that call too. That is what humans do." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. The Valkyrie led a convoy that included 2 Valerian ships. Thelen had insisted on sending a diplomatic mission to Earth. The Valerians wanted to thank humanity properly and establish formal relations between their species. Ben stood on the bridge watching the stars stream past. Amy was at her station, though there was nothing to shoot at. Peter was monitoring their course. Danny was probably in the engine room making small improvements that no one else would notice. Susan was in medical, writing reports on everything she had learned about alien biology. "Hard to believe it is over," Amy said. "It is not over," Ben replied. "This was just the beginning. We showed the galaxy that humanity exists. We showed them what we can do." "That changes everything," Peter nodded. "Earth Command has been sending daily updates. The news of our success has caused quite a stir. Some people are excited. Some are worried. Everyone has opinions." "What are they worried about?" Amy asked. "That we have made ourselves a target," Peter said. "That other aggressive species will see us as a threat. That we have gotten involved in galactic politics too soon." Ben considered this. Maybe we have. But what was the alternative? Let the Valerians die? Let the Kreth continue conquering? Sometimes you have to act even when you are not ready. The ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Home. Ben felt something loosen in his chest that he had not realized was tight. They had made it back. The Earth Command sent a welcoming message. They were to dock at the orbital station above Earth. There would be a formal reception. The Valerian diplomats would meet with Earth's government. The crew of the Valkyrie would be debriefed. But first, there was something else. Ben had requested permission for the Valerians to see Earth. Thelen and the other Valerians had heard about the Death World, but they had never seen it. The ships moved into orbit. Ben invited Thelen to the bridge. The Valerian skin showed swirls of color that indicated curiosity and nervousness. "There it is," Ben said, gesturing to the view screen. "Earth," Thelen stared. From orbit, Earth looked beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of the surface. White clouds swirled through the atmosphere. Green and brown continents broke up the blue. It looked peaceful, almost inviting. "This is a death world?" Thelen asked. "It looks so beautiful." "It is beautiful," Susan said. She had joined them on the bridge. "It is also one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy. The oceans have creatures that can swallow a ship whole. The land has predators that hunt in packs. The weather can shift from calm to deadly in minutes." She pulled up data on the screen. "Earth has more biodiversity than any Valerian world. Millions of species all competing for survival. Diseases that can kill in days. Plants that are poisonous. Insects that carry plagues." "But you survived this," Thelen said. "We did more than survive," Peter said. "We thrived. We became the dominant species. We learned to adapt to every environment. Humans live on frozen tundras and burning deserts. We live on mountains and in valleys. We conquered every ecosystem on the planet. At what cost?" Thelen asked. Ben thought about that. At the cost of becoming what we are. Humans are not the strongest species on Earth. We are not the fastest. We are not the most poisonous or the best armed. But we are the smartest. We are the most adaptable. We are the most stubborn. We refuse to give up. "You learned to fight," Thelen said softly. We learned to survive. Ben corrected. Fighting was just part of it. We learned to work together in groups. We learned to plan and strategize. We learned to use tools. We learned that today's enemy might be tomorrow's ally if circumstances changed. The Valerian was quiet for a long time, staring at Earth. Finally, Theln said, "We are grateful that you are our friends. I would not want you as enemies." "Neither would we," Amy said with a smile. The formal reception on the orbital station was grand. Earth's government had gone all out to impress their first alien visitors. There were speeches, ceremonies, exchange of gifts. The Valerians presented beautiful crystals that sang when light passed through them. The humans gave them artwork and music, trying to show the beauty that their violent world had inspired. But the most important meeting happened later, in a small conference room. Theln met with Earth's Secretary of Defense, a stern woman named Patricia Cruz. "We want to establish an alliance," Theln said. "A formal treaty between our peoples," Patricia nodded. "We are interested, but we need to be clear about terms. What exactly are you proposing?" "Mutual defense," Theln said. "Trade agreements. Cultural exchange. We have technology that might interest you. You have knowledge of warfare that we desperately need." "You want us to train your military?" Patricia said. "Yes. The Kreth have agreed to peace, but there are other threats in the galaxy. We need to be able to defend ourselves. You showed us that is possible." Patricia leaned back in her chair. "Training programs can be arranged, but understand something, Commander Thelon. Humans do not fight for money or resources. We fight for principles. If we train your military, it is because we believe you will use that training to defend yourselves, not to attack others." "You have our word," Thelon said. "The Valerian coalition has never been an aggressive species. We seek only to survive in peace." "Good," Patricia said. "Then we have a deal." Over the next few months, the alliance took shape. Humans sent advisors to Valerian worlds. Valerian sent scientists and diplomats to Earth. Trade began flowing both ways. The humans were particularly interested in Valerian medical technology and energy systems. The Valerians wanted human weapons technology and tactical training. But more than the formal agreements, a real friendship was forming between the species. Human children learned about Valerian art and music. Valerian students studied human history and literature. They were fascinated by humanity's violent past, by the thousands of years of warfare that had taught humans how to fight so effectively. Ben was promoted to admiral. He was put in charge of Earth's first deep space fleet, with orders to patrol Allied space and respond to threats. The Valkyrie was refitted and upgraded, ready for new missions. His crew stayed with him. Amy became his tactical officer. Danny was chief engineer for the entire fleet. Susan was appointed chief medical officer. Peter became his primary advisor on galactic affairs. 6 months after returning from Valerian space, they received a new distress call. This time it came from the Taurim, the peaceful mediators who had hosted the peace talks. They were under attack by raiders, pirates who thought the Taurim would be easy prey because they never fought. Ben read the message and looked at his crew. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think some pirates are about to learn a hard lesson," Amy said. "I think we have a job to do," Danny added. "I think we made a promise to help those who need it," Susan said. Peter smiled. "I think the galaxy is about to learn that you do not attack humanity's friends." Ben stood and addressed his fleet. There were 12 ships now, all human, all crewed by veterans who had fought in the Valerian campaign. "We have a new mission," he announced. "The Taurim are under attack. We are going to help them." He paused, looking at the faces of his crew. "Some of you might wonder why we keep doing this, why we risk our lives for species we barely know. I will tell you why. Because humanity has a choice. We can be conquerors like the Kreth were. We can be isolationists hiding behind our borders. Or we can be something better. We can be the people who answer when someone calls for help. We can be the species that stands up for what is right. We can be the Deathworlders who use our strength to protect instead of destroy." The crew cheered. It was not a loud cheer, not like the Valerians had given them. It was a human cheer, full of determination and readiness for battle. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. They were heading to Taurim space, ready to fight again. But this time they were not alone. 3 Valerian warships joined them, crewed by soldiers who had learned from human trainers. The Valerians were ready to pay forward the help they had received. As the stars streamed past, Ben thought about the future. Humanity had joined the galactic community as warriors, but they had shown they could be more than that. They could be friends, teachers, and protectors. The galaxy was a dangerous place. There were threats out there that humanity had not even encountered yet. There would be more battles, more difficult choices, more lives at risk. But humans had spent millions of years surviving on a death world. They had learned to adapt, to fight, to win against impossible odds. They had learned that survival was not just about being strong. It was about being smart, being stubborn, being willing to help others even when it cost you. The age of humanity among the stars had truly begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Somewhere in the distant reaches of space, on planets humanity had not yet discovered, other species were hearing the stories. Stories about the Deathworlders who came from a terrible world but chose to be heroes. Stories about humans who answered distress calls and fought for justice. Some species feared them. Some respected them. Some hoped that if they ever needed help, they too could call on the most dangerous species in the galaxy. And humanity would answer. That was who they were. That was who they chose to be. The Valkyrie and its fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, carrying hope to those who needed it most.